Good afternoon, everybody. I'm hoping you can hear me. Does this sound better? I'm getting thumbs up from some videos, hoping that is better. This is, yay, okay, yay, lots of yeses. Okay, this is Kathleen McNary with the Carlsbad Chamber of Commerce. And thank you guys all for being here and joining us for our very first webinar through the Chamber. We're super excited to be here, and an extra special huge thank you to our three presenters today who really at the drop of a dime came and answered our request for help and are gracing us with their presence and expertise to guide us through this kind of crazy time right now. I have to say one thing that we've noticed and has been just absolutely amazing is during all of this craziness and uncertainty, the just action and ability of our members and local community and the city to all be working together and collaborating so well has just been outstanding. And so thank you guys all for being here. So we're going to get started since we had a little bit of a late start. And first up is going to be Ken Luis from the San Diego Office of the Small Business Administration. He is a lender relations specialist and will be speaking specifically on applying for loans and different opportunities available. So I'm going to send it over to you, Ken. Just 1 second.
Kathleen, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, perfect. Let me try to share my screen and then we'll go from there. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ken. I work for the Small Business Administration out of the San Diego District Office. I want to welcome everyone. I want to thank Carlsbad Chamber of Commerce for inviting us. We are trying to get the message out there to everyone in regards to the programs and services that we're currently providing under the federal program. Once again, my name is Ken. I'm the Lender Relations Specialist out of the San Diego District Office. We are working hard and diligently on trying to get our economic injury disaster loan out there to everyone and providing some information or guidance. We must keep in mind that what I say today it's official, however, it may change tomorrow. I know Congress is actually working on a few bills. They are trying to work on multiple things at this time. So what I say today will be the most updated information we currently have and we can discuss at this time. So when the disaster occurred last week in reference to the declaration that was signed by the president as well as our our SBA administrator, we made a declaration indicating that California, and this is all of California, which includes the counties as well as the cities, are able to qualify, if you're a business located in California, qualify under the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. What it basically is it's basically a low-interest federal disaster loan for working capital to small businesses suffering substantially through economic injury as a result of the coronavirus, COVID-19. How it generally works is it normally needs to go through the governor's office and get approved, and then from there, the governor will request for it to be a declared disaster area from our administrator. However, that declaration was already signed last week, and so all of California currently are able to qualify for the disaster loan program that we're offering. Now, the program is available to small businesses, small agricultural cooperatives, small aquaculture businesses, and most private nonprofit organizations. Now, this does include businesses directly affected by the disaster, as well as businesses that offer services directly related to the businesses in the declaration disaster area. Now, other businesses indirectly related to the industry that are likely to be harmed by loan losses in those communities are able to qualify. For example, manufacturers, as far as like Say, for instance, a manufacturer produces a wedge. They may be eligible as well as the wholesaler and retailer of the actual products, product business for the manufacturer company. So if the business or its suppliers or even their wholesalers were affected because of the coronavirus, they all can qualify for this disaster loan program. Once again, it's called the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and we're going to go over the basic fundamentals of what we actually look at. The top three things that we actually look at to qualify for these loans is credit history. Credit history has been something that we are currently looking at. As far as what the actual number is, we can't disclose that information at this time. I believe Congress, as well as our administrator, is working on raising or even lowering that credit history score. So as far as right now, we're just encouraging business owners just to apply for this disaster relief fund. And if you get denied for the loan, we are currently working on alternative ways to get the businesses funded or get businesses money out there. The other thing we look at is repayment ability. And also repayment ability means basically what it means. If you're able to support, or this loan will not drive you to the ground, but help support the business owner and be able to repay the loan back. The third thing is it must be a business that's located in a declared disaster area. Once again, I can't stress, California has been approved as a whole state as a declared disaster area. So as far as qualification regarding eligibility, if your business is located in California and you file taxes in California, you are able to qualify under the eligibility part of the loan. Now, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program allows the borrower to qualify up to $2 million in funding. Interest rates is basically less than 4%. The reason why we say less than 4%, because if you're a for-profit business, the interest rate is about 3.75. If you're a nonprofit organization, the interest rate will be at 2.75. The loan funds can be used to pay fixed debts, payrolls, accounts payable, and other bills that could have been paid had the disaster not occurred. We've been getting a lot of questions regarding paying off or refinancing existing debts. However, if a loan was approved prior to the declared disaster date, unfortunately, those won't be able to qualify under the refinance program. However, these loans are able to be provided to the business owner to make payments on those loans. But you are not able to refinance an existing debt under this program. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan terms. Now, the collateral requirements for an Economic Injury Disaster Loan for loans over $25,000 does require collateral. However, at the time of review, we will ask the business owner if it's an issue to take that as a collateral. If a collateral is an issue, we could reduce the loan to $25,000 and be able to still give you those funds to the business owner. However, SBA will not decline a loan for lack of collateral, but will require borrowers to pledge what is available on the business side as well as the personal side. Now, eligible industries include, but are not limited to, hotels, recreational facilities, charter boats, manufacturers, sports, vendors, owners of rental property, restaurants, retail, as well as souvenir shops, travel agencies, as well as wholesalers. So this economic industry disaster loan does qualify for a lot of businesses. We don't want to tell businesses not to apply, but we're encouraging them to just apply and see what happens. I know based on current declines as well as approvals, Congress are actually looking at that at this time and seeing how they can assist in these times of needs. However, if laws change and policies change, we will be in contact with all business owners that do apply for this loan program. Now, the economic injury disaster loans are funds that come directly from the U.S. Treasury. For most of you, you guys should know we do have the 7A program and 504 program, which generates through an actual lending facility or institution. This program is a bit different. It's directly funded by the U.S. government. So we write you the check to the business owner, and the business owner will make a determination what he needs to pay for his business. So it's an actual direct loan funded by the U.S. Treasury. You don't need to go through a third party. You don't need to go apply through a actual broker. It's a direct fund with the U.S. government. SBA is basically administering these loans, so you'll get the check from the U.S. Treasury, and then that way you can pay your cost that you're backed up on. Now, there is no cost to basically apply. There's no obligation to take the loan. If you have an existing SBA disaster loan, you still may be able to qualify. Now, these loans cannot be to consolidate any existing debt that's outstanding prior to the actual disaster. Now, the basic documents that's needed for these loans are the loan application, which is the SBA Form 5, tax information authorization, which is the IRS Tax Form 4506T, the complete copies of the most recent federal income taxes. We also need a schedule of liabilities as well as your personal financial statements. However, SBA may require additional documentation during the review process of the application. Additional information also includes information on principals, general partners, or also managing partners or members, as well as affiliates, and also profit and loss statements and SBA Form 1368, which is the filing requirements. Ineligible types of businesses or entities are agriculture enterprises if the primary activity of the business is basically defined in Section 18B1 of the Small Business Act. Neither the business nor its affiliates are eligible for the EIDL assistance loans. Any religious organizations don't qualify. Charitable organizations, gambling concerns, if concerns that derive more than 1/3 of their annual gross revenues from legal gambling, casinos, racetracks, they won't be able to qualify under the EIDL assistance program. So just be aware there is some ineligible types of businesses. Currently, this is the list that we currently have as of today. Now, to basically apply for these loan programs, there are two ways to apply for these loans, online or through regular mail. Forms can be found on the disasterloan.sba.gov website if you want to try to mail in your loans. I know currently our system is currently under maintenance, and the only reason why it's under maintenance is because of the fact that because of the new laws and changes that's being carried down by Congress, we needed to make some updates to the system. However, they did not indicate when they're planning on putting it back up again. However, I know it was down from 3 p.m. yesterday. I do have a feeling that they might be able to finish the updates today, but please do not quote me on it. We are working as quickly as possible to get that system back up and running again. However, if you want to create a paper package, you're more than welcome to create a paper package by going to that website on the top part where it says disasterloan.sba.gov. You can print out all the documents and you can mail it to that Fort Worth, Texas mailing address. We are trying to find alternative ways to try to get applications in the door. I heard that they were talking about doing through email. However, we are trying to figure those out right now. As far as we know, the only two ways available is through the online application or through regular mail. Now, assistance from our SBA partners. We are working with our SBA partners, which is our small business development centers, our SCORE chapters, our women business centers, as well as our veteran business outreach centers, as well as our local chambers to assist business owners with the application process. I know the Small Business Development Company is basically holding virtual webinars on going through the application process with borrowers. But if you want to register or if you want to set up an appointment virtually through our resource partners within San Diego and Imperial County, we ask that you please utilize those websites to register with them and also set up a time so you can go, so someone can assist you with the application process. If you're not located in San Diego or Imperial County, you're more than welcome to research the nearest Small Business Development Center, Women Business Center, or Veteran Business Outreach Center, the local assistance center, by using that website, typing your zip code, and it will tell you where the local assistance center, the closest one to you. Now, to submit your application as soon as possible, we ask that you please double check and recheck the filing requirements to ensure that all the needed information is submitted. We always advise business owners not to leave anything blank. If it doesn't pertain to you, do me a favor and write NA. So that way, the loan officer, when they review the application, they have noticed that you did look at the question and you couldn't answer it because it doesn't apply to you, and you have noticed that question. However, missing information has been our top priority, or rejections in reference to coming in through the front door. So make sure you're double checking your responses. And if you need help, reach out to our small business development centers or our resource partners. They'll be more than happy to help you or assist you through the process. The biggest reason for the delays is processing due to missing information, as I indicated. Make sure to complete and filling requirements before submitting the application and forms. If more funds are needed, applicants can submit supporting documentation and request for an increase at a later date. If less funds are needed, applicants can request for a reduction in the actual loan amount. If the loan request is denied, the applicant will be given up to 6 months in which to provide new information and submit a written request for reconsideration. Receiving information. We highly recommend, because Congress is changing information and laws at this time, sign up for our SBA San Diego newsletter by clicking on the web link, and I believe Kathleen will be sending out the PowerPoints to everyone. Clicking on the web link or even going to that website and requesting for information from our district office. Once we get the guidance from Congress, as well as our administrator, we'll send out everyone an updated newsletter that's part of our registered list to be able to receive newsletter. Once again, I cannot stress this enough. Sign up for our newsletter. What the president says on, I just want to advise everyone, what the president says in his news media, he needs to go through Congress to get everything approved. So I would highly recommend, if you do listen to him in news broadcast systems, please make sure that that information will be related to us, but as we go along, steps need to be taken in order for us to administer these funds. However, as of right now, this is the only information we currently have regarding the loan program. Now, keep in mind the SBA district office is located in San Diego. We don't work as quick as the actual administrators of the program, which is part of the SBA Disaster Assistance Loan Center. They are located in Texas. They will be more than happy to take your questions, your concerns. You can always email them, but please keep in mind, just to give you an idea on how many applications we received in Texas, we received 700,000 applicants just on Friday, just for the state of California. Once again, 700,000 requests. So we're working as quick as possible. These loans would be administered based on a first-come, first-served basis. We have been getting a lot of questions regarding, hey, Ken, if we mail it, will that take a lot more time? We receive, based on the application we receive, we will date it, and stamp it and put it in the pipelines when they actually review the application. So it doesn't matter if you're doing it electronically or through paper. It's going to be stamped dated as soon as we receive it, and will be put into the pipeline, and it will be reviewed based on a first-come, first-served basis. Just to let you know, that SBA Disaster Assistance number, it's actually 1-800-659-2955. Once again, that is 1-800-659-2955. You can email us at disastercustomerservice@sba.gov. If you want more information regarding our disaster loan programs and services, you can use that website, and it will provide you with all the detailed information that you need regarding the specific program. Other than that, Kathleen, you want to open up for questions, or how do you want to work this out?
Okay, there we go.
Hello?
Sorry about that. Thank you so much, Ken. So yes, with the questions, we're gonna hold all of those until the end right now, and we'll be asking you guys to send any questions into the chat. And at the very end, we should have 10-15 minutes to address many of those. But also we will be sending out the recording of this call, which will include all of the slides and everything. So you will get that information as soon as this webinar is complete. And then also following up to this SBA part of it, we will be doing a second webinar with Ken next Tuesday, which is going to actually, he's going to walk us through the loan application process. And who knows, we may be looking at a very different process then. So stay tuned. All of that information is on our website as well at carlsbad.org. So that is a good resource. Now we'll go to our second speaker. Thank you again, Ken. That was perfect. Our second speaker is Miss Laura Henderson, the owner of North County HR, and she's gonna hit on a lot of very confusing topics related to employment, and she's gonna make it easy for us to understand. So Laura, I'm gonna give it over to you here.
Hi, everybody. And are you guys able to see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we have 15 minutes to cover a lot of really important information. So I guess just a little bit of background. So we are human resources consultants, and we help small and medium-sized businesses. And so those last couple of weeks, we have been extremely busy. Every single business is impacted by this crisis, and I would say well over 90% of those businesses have been impacted in a negative way. Of course, there's some companies, probably like Zoom and similar companies, that are going gangbusters. But so my strategy for talking today is just focusing on the most common questions that I've gotten over the last 2 weeks. There's lots of other information coming out about some of additional government programs that have to do with some special sick leave and some extended FMLA programs. I'm not going to talk about those today, but on the last slide, there's some resources on there. And I think maybe Jeromy might talk a little bit about those. So the most common question that we're getting from employers has to do with conserving cash. And since their business is being dramatically impacting, that of course has to do with reducing payroll expenses. So I just wanted to quickly talk about the couple different options that you have for reducing payroll expenses if you're in this position. And before I start, I would also say that, a lot of employers have told us, hey, we've been continuing to pay employees, which is absolutely fantastic, especially if you have the ability to do that. But I would say that, from what we can see from the calls that we're getting, this is going to be a very long road. So I would just encourage everyone to really kind of strategize and think ahead about how long you could do that and how long that will make sense, because it may make a difference to your business, staying afloat in the long run. So this slide basically has, kind of the different options that you have. A layoff is the first option. And I think everybody knows kind of the basics of that. And then a furlough is the next. And so we've gotten a lot of questions about, well, what is the difference between a layoff and a furlough? And so a layoff is essentially like a permanent separation, where you basically are ending the employee's employment with the company. You're giving them the paperwork that's required when you let someone go for any reason, including their final checks and that kind of thing. A furlough is when the employee is remaining an employee of yours, but they're not working. And there's different ways that you could do that. You could furlough somebody for a month. You could have rotating, weeks that people are off.
Laura?
Yes.
Laura, so sorry, it's Kathleen here. I'm getting notices that people can't see your slides.
Oh, really?
Can you hit this? I think you need to share screen. Hit the share screen button. Should be down at the bottom.
Okay, there you go.
There you go. Perfect.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. Okay, so yeah, so the layoffs, we just talked about the layoffs and the furlough. So like I said, furlough is they remain an employee of yours, but they might be off for, a period of time, which could be months or a month or a week at a time. So those, I would say those are two of the most common that employers are considering. You can also look at doing pay cuts. If you do that, you want to make sure that you still have to stay above any minimum wage and minimum salary requirements for the people that are salaried exempt. And then if you do decide to do pay cuts, you may want to consider what is your strategy there. You can apply pay cuts across the board to all of your employees, and if so, what is the percentage, or how will you determine that? Another option is reducing hours. So if you have full-time employees, those full-timers could be turned into, part-timers, and part-timers can have reduced hours compared to what they have now as well. And then one option is you could take employees that are your salaried exempt employees, and you could convert them into hourly non-exempt. And the reason you might want to do this is when you have someone who is a salaried exempt employee, there are very few exceptions when you can reduce their pay for the amount of work. Like if you're saying, well, gosh, they're still working, but they're only working 20 hours a week. So there's some rules around that. So you want to be really careful if you are going to make a change to somebody who's salaried exempt. And then one option is you can kind of look at all the different pieces and maybe combine several options. You may decide, we're going to do a straight layoff for, a percentage of our workforce, and then, do pay cuts for some and reduce hours for some. So you can look at combining depending on the business type that you have. So if you do have a layoff, you're going to want to make sure that you handle the communication to employees the best you can. Right now, I normally would say speak with them in person, but of course a lot of people are working from home, including me. If you hear my dog bark or a teenager, that's what's going on. So you want to make direct contact with the employee by phone. Be really clear on what is happening. And of course, it's a great time for compassion. There's so much stress and anxiety out there. It's a really good time to let people know, it has nothing to do with you. Of course, everything that's going on. And, so I think that goes a long way for employees right now with all the other stresses that they're dealing with. And then, you're gonna want to make sure they get their final paperwork just like you would do in any other termination. So that means that they get their final check for any wages due, including vacation, or if you have PTO, paid time off. Any vacation must be paid out at the time of termination. You need to provide them with a change in status form saying that they've been laid off. And then also the EDD unemployment brochure, which I think is listed on the last slide. And then of course, all of your other offboarding steps that you would typically take, don't forget to collect any company property, including, if they have a laptop, if they're working remote, if they've been receiving benefits, health insurance benefits through you, you're going to want to make sure they get their COBRA paperwork so they can continue their coverage if they'd like to do that. If they're participating in 401k, you need to notify the 401k record keeper, and then any other items that you would typically do as part of a termination. And then the other actions, like the items that are not a layoff, like pay cuts and reducing hours, I would just say that, this is where the communication becomes really important to let employees know what's going on. So you might want to consider summarizing what is happening in a letter, because if you communicate with them on the phone, they're going to be kind of processing the information. So a letter would provide, a great recap of what's happening and what it means to them specifically. A couple important things on unemployment. If you do have somebody who's laid off, I would encourage them to apply for unemployment immediately. Right now, I'm sure the EDD is very overwhelmed with the number of requests that they're getting. So the sooner they get in line to be eligible for unemployment, the better. One thing that's nice is they have waived normally there's a 7-day waiting period for unemployment, and that's been waived. And another thing some employers aren't aware of is, even if they weren't laid off, but they had their hours dramatically reduced, they will likely be eligible for partial unemployment. So I'm just looking at the time to make sure we're good. Okay, so then switching gears, the other really common question that we've been getting lately is, working from home with just so many people telecommuting lately. So I have a couple just tips and tricks on that. Make sure that you have a written policy on how this is going to work, especially for your hourly non-exempt employees. And we're already seeing, employers are starting to maximize some of the remote tools such as Zoom, like we're using today, and other communication tools like Slack and email and similar tools like that. And then just some best practices from what I've seen over the last couple of weeks with a couple employers. I think really are going to have to be flexible, especially because it's not just everybody, all these people working from home that maybe weren't working from home before. You have the stress and anxiety of everything that's happening around us. And then also a lot of people, of course, have their kids at home, and they're trying to deal with homeschooling and the daycare needs that they didn't necessarily have before. So I think, you'll just have to be really flexible with people. And, meetings, I think continue those regular meetings that you already have, move them to some kind of webinar, online, Zoom, or similar. One of the companies I work with has been having, a daily meeting, which has actually turned out to be fantastic. It's only about 15 minutes long, but everybody kind of gets to touch base on what's going on. I think whenever you can, you're going to want to be both realistic and reassuring. And I think a lot of employees need a pep talk right now about, what's happening with the business. A lot of business leaders are trying to kind of pivot where they are to see if, they can readjust their strategy to at least survive this difficult time. I've seen a lot of managers that are doing kind of one-on-one meetings like they would before, but instead of doing it live, they're doing it on the phone, and the employee and the manager is walking outside. And so you get some air, but you still have your meeting. So I think that's a great tip too. We talked about being understanding with childcare issues. I think another really important thing is encourage employees not to watch the news during their workday. It can be really distracting and anxiety ridden. Encourage people to have a routine and block time out to do things. And then also best practices, don't work from your bed or a couch. Set up a regular workstation in an office or at a dining room table. So I think this is a slide that has some resources. I know that'll get sent out later, and I know we're doing questions after. So with that, I know that was really fast, but I will pass it on to Jeromy.
Okay, thank you so much, Laura. That was really a lot of fabulous advice that some I really needed to hear myself, like not listening to the news while trying to work. It's extremely distracting. Okay, so next up, I'm going to move on really quickly. Again, just to point you guys for any questions, you can send them into the Zoom group chat. And Laura, if you are able to, you can respond within that chat to some of them.
Okay.
And then towards the end, we will try to get to as many other questions as we can. So next up, last but absolutely certainly not least, is Jeromy White, who is president of KingBenefits Insurance Solutions. And Jeromy is going to be teaching us a lot about insurance questions. Let me see if I can figure out how to get him as the host. One moment. There. Where'd you go? There you are. Make host. Okay, there you go. Yes.
Okay. And let's see, do I need to click share screen? Let's see, where did I do that? Here we go, I got it. We practiced this yesterday, but. Sure. Okay. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you to the Chamber of Commerce, as always, for pulling our business community together. We're very lucky to have their leadership in Carlsbad, and especially in times like this. So thank you for putting this together, and thank you to Ken and Laura. The goal for my presentation is I want to just do the best I can to explain how the insurance companies are handling the COVID pandemic and the government, some of the work that they're doing. We are getting updates, not daily, but hourly. So most of this information, all of this information should be current, working on it as recent as a couple hours ago. But there's just so much guidance coming out every day. And I'm going to change my display here. Okay. I'm sorry. It's telling me that I lost you guys. There we go. I think I've got you back. I'm sorry about that. So on to the first slide, with the health insurance, the way the health insurance carriers are handling this, regarding the testing and the screening for the COVID-19, they will be paying for those tests at 100%. And that includes even your high deductible health plan. So those of you that are on HSA plans, it will not affect your high deductible health plan eligibility. However, following the testing, normal deductibles and copays, coinsurance will apply to any care that takes place after you've tested for the COVID-19. And one thing I really want to encourage, and I always encourage our clients to do, is to take care of their, take advantage of a telemedicine benefit if they have one. Right now, many doctors are actually doing virtual visits, but a telemedicine benefit is extremely important right now, even if you think it's COVID-19, but especially if you've got another health concern, and access to care is going to be a little bit tough right now because of the situation everyone's in. So use your telemedicine benefit to have those consultations with doctors virtually via FaceTime, via Skype, and make sure you're taking advantage of that. One thing that I thought was really cool is the company Optum is offering a free emotional support line. So this is similar to an EAP program. If your employer, if you as the employer offer an EAP program, make sure you're reminding your employees that they have access to that. Again, remind them that they have access to the telemedicine program. But this Optum deal is free. So even if you don't have an EAP, your employees can contact the number I've listed here 24 hours a day and talk about some of the stresses that we're all going through with the health, with our financial stresses that we're having. So make sure you send that information out. There's also a special enrollment that some of the carriers have started to offer. I think what we're seeing is additional guidance from the carriers every day, and one comes out before the next, and eventually I think all the health insurance carriers will end up on the same page, more or less doing the same things. United Healthcare, for example, their group business has said they will allow an open enrollment, and it's a short window. I believe it's out until April 6th. But for any employees that have previously declined the coverage, for whatever reason, they can join a group health plan right now up through this open enrollment window. And again, some of the carriers, I think, will also decide to do the same thing. For Covered California, these are the individual Covered California products. They have extended their open enrollment out until June 30th. So employees who chose to go uninsured before, I'm sorry, not employees, individuals who chose to go uninsured before now have access to get insurance through Covered California. So there are options out there for folks that are currently uninsured, and then options to access care, get the testing, which again will be offered at no charge. From the carrier standpoint, what are they doing to help out? So everyone's being really flexible. Everyone wants to work together and get through this together. The insurance carriers, most of them, and again, I expect all of them eventually will end up on the same page, but are allowing for your employees that have a reduction in their hours, your employees that unfortunately are having to be furloughed, to remain on the group insurance plan. Generally, you would take those employees who have reduced hours or who are furloughed off of the plan. They'd be offered COBRA. I put in the actual language here from United Healthcare again, that they're temporarily relaxing their requirement for employees that are not actively working. The one stipulation is you want to make sure you offer this coverage on a non-discriminatory basis. So if you allow one employee to remain on the plan for a reduction in hours, you need to let them all remain on the plan for a reduction in hours. The last thing with the carriers that, again, we're getting additional guidance every day from them on, but the insurance commissioner has asked that they extend their grace period of paying premiums out at least 60 days. So I think we'll see a lot of the carriers be a little more flexible and lenient, and on a case-by-case basis work with employers on getting their premiums paid. They understand that things are very tight for a lot of businesses right now. Okay, so this is something that was signed into law on March 18th. They're calling it the Family First Coronavirus Response Act. So this is kind of the first guidance and support that the government had sent out to us last week, and then, as everyone knows, they're working on the stimulus today, which I will touch on here in a few minutes. But for the Corona Response Act, this is just extra funding for unemployment. So the federal government will help subsidize the state government with money for unemployment. It's providing emergency paid sick leave, expanding on FMLA, and providing tax credits to employers to help cover these expenses. For the emergency paid sick leave, employers must provide sick leave when an employee is unable to work or telework due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This is to go into effect April 2nd, possibly sooner, but April 2nd is the date that I'm seeing. Again, that could change. And the reasons that an employee would go out on sick leave would be tied to them personally becoming ill or seeking symptoms or a diagnosis for the COVID-19. This does apply to employers under 500 employees. And one thing that is interesting is that any employer that's 50 or less has never had to deal with FMLA before, so they actually are going to fall under the expanded FMLA portion of this, which is, I think, giving a lot of smaller employers some anxiety since they've never been a part of this. And again, we've got resources, we're receiving more guidance, so we just kind of take it one step at a time. Regarding the sick leave, the duration of sick leave is for 80 hours for a full-time employee. And for part-time employees, you take the average of a 2-week period, how many hours they've worked, and that's the paid sick leave that they receive. And then again, there's compensation information at the bottom of this slide. I know there's a lot of information on this slide, but for the sick leave if it's actually applicable to the employee who's sick or quarantined or isolated. They're to receive 100% of their pay up to $511 a day. And if it happens to be that the employee is out caring for a family member, the pay there is 2/3 of their pay to cap at $200 a day. And Department of Labor actually just got an email this morning. They were to issue additional guidance on how you calculate that pay with a little more detail. So I do have that guidance, which I can send out after this presentation. Okay, and now the expanded FMLA portion. This works a little bit differently in that the first 10 days of the leave can be unpaid. However, employees are allowed to offset that first 10 days with any accrued vacation, personal, or sick leave. And then following the 10 days, employers are to pay that employee 2/3 of their regular rate, again, capped at the $200 a day. Regarding unemployment compensation, the EDD, as Laura mentioned, is waived the 1-week waiting period for those claims. The one thing that a lot of my clients are talking to me about, and I've had to research and learn for the first time, is something called the work sharing program. I would encourage you to look into this before you, if you're able to, before you lay off employees completely. Look at the work share program. Essentially, as long as you keep your employees working 40% of the week, so 2 days a week, let's say full time, and you're able to pay them, the work share program, the EDD, will pick up the additional 60% of their compensation. And the benefit to that is that the normal unemployment cap, which I believe is around $450 a day, doesn't apply to those to this work share program. So it's something that you have to apply for. You might want to jump on and apply as soon as possible, because I understand there's a 1 to 2 week wait period before you find out if you're accepted into the program. But since I've had so many of my clients asking me about this, I wanted to make sure I included it in this presentation. The tax credit, how is that going to work for for businesses that choose to participate in this program? Again, if you're 50 plus, you don't have a choice. If you're 50 and under, you can file for the small business exemption. But the way the credit will work will be against your payroll. And I've given a couple examples. The first example there is that if you paid out $5,000 in wages and health insurance, one of the things they've asked you to do is keep these employees on the health insurance as well. But if you paid out $5,000 in sick leave and you happen to owe $8,000 in your payroll taxes, it's kind of my understanding is a goodwill that you just deposit the remaining $3,000, you keep the difference into the taxes. And then obviously for the circumstance, if you've paid out more in sick leave than you owe in the deposit to the taxes, you can file for an accelerated credit for that additional $2,000 in the example I've given there. So again, how do you do it? How do you file it? I don't have those answers this second, but I'm happy to research them, and as we get more information, I'm going to be distributing it out to all of my clients. So, and again, these small businesses can file for an exemption if this puts a strain on their business, which I expect many small businesses will file, and we're getting guidance. I believe something came through today on how to file for that exemption. Okay, and this is the last slide. This is current as of about an hour and a half ago. I understand they still haven't signed, Congress still hasn't signed this stimulus in, but I expect it's going to happen today. And obviously the goal is to provide American families with money, both individually, provide businesses money that we can hopefully continue and get back to business as usual as quickly as possible. Part of this stimulus package is going to extend unemployment for folks by 13 weeks. Will also increase their benefit for a period of 4 weeks. There will be small businesses emergency loans available, and the goal here is to keep your employees working, and if you're able to continue work for your employees, that this loan that you'll be eligible for will be forgiven. Don't have a lot of information on how to apply for that yet, but we will get it. And then for the actual individual stimulus, many of you have probably seen these figures, but the way it's going to work is if you're an individual who makes $75,000 or less, you're eligible for a $1,200 check plus a $500 per child, and then a married couple with at $150,000 or less will receive $2,400, and again, the benefit for $500 per child. And then between $75,000 and $99,000, those benefits will be, that stimulus check will be tiered. And then anyone making over $99,000 will not receive any financial assistance. And the goal for just to stabilize the economy, they're going to give the airlines $50 billion, and the part that most of us care about is this small business program that will be lending out up to $350 billion. So big figures, and again, we're working through this stuff, and we're here to help. A few resources that I would recommend is checking out the Economic Development Collaborative. They've got a business resource guide that touches, there's a ton of information there, and it's been very helpful to go through myself. And then again, the EDD, for those of you that are having to apply, your employees are going to have to apply for unemployment, but check out that work-share program that I mentioned. Check out your insurance provider's website. There's tons of guidance and tools and information for both the employer side and the employee side. So it might be something you include in your communication out to employees. Make sure they log on to their respective insurance portals and make sure they understand the crisis and the tools and resources that they have. And if you care to be added to our email list, I've been sending out updates almost daily as we get additional information on this stuff. And I'm happy to, if you drop me an email, I'm happy to add you to our email list. So that's all I've got. Sorry about the hiccups in the beginning, but thank you again for your time.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Jeremy. That was a lot of really great information. One thing I want to add to while we were on that topic, the Chamber is going to be hosting a webinar on Monday at noon, this upcoming Monday, specifically on the Family First Response Act and best practices for employers. It's going to be co-hosted with two attorneys from Fisher Phillips, a big law firm here. So the information for that is also available on our website at carlsbad.org. So I think what we're going to do now for the last few minutes here is, because the chat box got a little full, I would like to see if we can try using the raising hands to ask questions. So if you have a question, you can raise your hand, and it should be down, where'd it go? There is an option to raise your hand if you hover over yourself, I believe, in the participants field. So I do see one hand lowered. That would be for Bill King. I'm gonna go ahead and unmute you, Bill King.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I just want to let you know that Jeremy's slides did not show, at least on my phone. And I think it might be a good idea for us to send out those slides to everyone. For example, North County HR, you are showing right now on the film, at least on my phone.
Okay, interesting. I was able to see the slides, but yes, great point. We will be sending out the full recording of the webinar along with all of the materials in it. And I can't add it to the chat until this meeting has officially ended. So I think what will probably be the best thing to do is I can post the link to download it also in our calendar on the website. So if you go to carlsbad.org, click on events in our calendar and find this meeting, the link to download the recording will be placed in there probably just 5 minutes after 3. So keep an eye out for that. We'll also be posting it and sharing it on social media as well. Let's see, I do not see any other hands raised at the moment, but maybe I can call on Sports for Learning, who asked, where do we go to track details on how to apply for the $350 billion relief that went through for small businesses? So I'm guessing, is that a question then for Ken? Let me find you, Ken. Ken, are you able to respond to that?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, that $350 billion. Apparently, I guess it was approved from this call. I guess I wasn't sure that it was approved, but it is through the economic injury disaster loan that we talked about earlier. That is the program that they're initiating those funds to. So if you want your hands on those funds, we ask that you please encourage you guys to apply for the economic injury disaster loan. I believe the web link is provided out in the PowerPoint when you do receive it. But if you don't have it, it's disasterloan.sba.gov. And I did double check, the web link is up and running.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, and then I do see another question here from Boys and Girls Club. If nonprofits are still eligible for the credit. Now, Jeromy, was that a you question? For the tax credits, thank you.
Yeah, for the tax credit, I don't know that I don't believe nonprofits are available. I know I read about that earlier. I don't want to give out the wrong information, but I see who's asked that, and I can research that and send a definitive answer.
Okay, perfect. Love it. Thank you so much. Okay, so are there any other questions? We'll go back to just popping them in the Zoom chat. Anything else? Okay, got another one here. Is there any idea of how soon we will be able to apply since the site is down, and is filing through the mail faster? Ken, that would be for you.
As I indicated, can you hear me? Sorry, I'm not sure if I'm unmuted or muted.
You're unmuted. You're good.
Okay. So from what I can tell, I just went to the website. It is actually up and running. As far as fastest way, like I indicated earlier, it's based on a first-come, first-served basis. So if you do decide to mail in your package, the file room or the mail room will receive your application and basically time and date stamp it and put it into the pipeline of that specific day on when we receive it. The same goes for people who apply online. As soon as we receive the application on that day, it'll be put right into the pipeline. So I was told the max, we will get back to you within 3 weeks. They haven't increased that time frame yet. However, I did receive calls from individuals who did apply for the loan and did get a response within 24 hours. So basically, it's all in when you submit your application. It can take as less as 72 hours or 24 hours, but it can take up to 3 weeks. It all depends how many individual applications we currently have in the pipeline. But as of last week, Friday, I did get a client that called and said that, it only took me 24 hours to get a response back. So today might be a little bit different, but we're advising everyone it can take up to 3 weeks.
Perfect. Thank you, Ken. And then if you guys would like, everybody participating would like to look in the Zoom chat, there are some links posted in there also by the Orange County Small Business Association. So with a link to apply electronically and one to apply a paper loan application. Let's see. We'll do one last question here. You mentioned that a person with a compromised health issue can stay at home and apply for the 2 weeks of sick leave. However, what if that person is willing and able to work from home? Are they still eligible for sick pay? Jeromy, would that be a question for you? Or maybe Laura? Let me get to Laura. Where'd you go? Laura, are you able to answer that?
Yeah. I mean, I think that if they're working, then they're not going to be eligible for sick, right? I mean, they can't have both.
Mhm.
So, you know, it's kind of going to be one or the other.
Yep. One or the other. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna end the Q&A session here. Again, though, everybody, we will be posting the entire recording of this presentation on our website at carlsbad.org, and it will include the video portion as well, which will have the PowerPoints and slides of everything that was presented. So please, and just give us a few minutes to get that uploaded to carlsbad.org. Go to the events portion of the website and find this event on today, and the details will be within there. We will also be sharing it out on social media following this. And then again, if you are interested to join us for a webinar on Tuesday, Ken will be walking us through that loan application process. So the details are also on the website of how to join that Zoom webinar. And then the day before that, on next Monday, we'll be having the best practices for employers to meet the needs demanded by that Family First Response Act. So there's a lot going on. The chamber, we're now posting everything virtually. We'll be having tons of webinars along with networking opportunities through Zoom. So if you're interested, check out our website, and we will also be posting almost everything through social media channels as well. So thank you guys all. Special thank you to Ken, Laura, and Jeromy for joining us and teaching us what you guys know best. So thank you so much, and I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you. Good luck, everyone.